Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of Knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, that podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, that Roseville Wrecking Ball. We're currently sitting at grievance number 591 for the year, almost done and wrapped up. Think we'll make it to 600? We'll see. Today is a special edition. Today we have an investigative interview with the infamous Debbie Dixon. There's been a lot of things surrounding Debbie Dixon that recently occurred. Of course, everybody knows what's going on and why it's going on. And of course, that shaped the questions that people sent in a little bit more. Originally, when I slated her for this interview, it wasn't so sided on the events that surrounded what happened. But, of course, people had some questions, and they have a right to be curious. So, without further ado, this is my investigative interview with Debbie Dixon, with questions submitted by listeners. And Region 2, the question is for you to decide. After this interview is done, do you think she has what it takes to be Region 2's NBA? Do you think we should issue her the discipline of being Region 2's NBA? You decide that. Well, I'll see you on the other side. Okay, we're over here with Debbie Dixon. Debbie Dixon, would you please state your name and introduce yourself for the record?
My name is Debbie Dixon. I was just recently, an RAA for Region 2, and now I'm a rank and file letter carrier in Olympia, Washington, and I'm running for the position of Region 2 NBA.
Nice. All right. So it's the long anticipated interview with Debbie Dixon. A lot has changed since we tried to schedule this, but we got a list of questions here that listeners have submitted in, and I'm just going to go down the list. Forgive me if some of them are repetitive because I didn't get a lot of chance to really format this too much. So, all right, we'll start with the top.
Okay.
What will you do differently as far as what goes to arbitration and what gets pre-arbed?
Do differently. I kind of think that looking at impasses that come to our office, come to the regional office, I think there is a pretty good job done already of what goes to arbitration and what gets pre-arbed. I think for me, though, one thing I would do differently is have more communication with the local branch, the local stewards, on why something may be looked at as it's best to pre-arb it. And typically that's because there's ways that a case file can be improved. There's things that are missing. May even come down to who the arbitrator is and what we've seen that arbitrator decide in the past. But giving the locals the understanding of the dynamics, I think would be important. Another thing I would do differently as the leader in the office and MBA, I would split territory. With the other regions do that, where both RAAs or 3 RAAs all do pre-arbs, all take a look at what goes to arbitration. And this way there would be more equalizing of those duties, that particular duty, and everyone could much more be on the same page about what comes up to the office as far as impasses.
Nice. All right, next question. How will you fix the grievance process in Region 2?
Well, fixing the grievance process, and specifically in Region 2, it absolutely needs the support from the national office. When I oversaw DRT, took a look at the grievance process, for me, it was taking the memo, the DRT memo, and majorly enforcing that. Getting that support from national did not end up happening in my situation. I wanted to enforce that 3 extra, I believe at the time there were 3 DRT teams. They took away management, but the backlog was not done. The memo is very specific on teams will be activated until the grievance backlog is done. I didn't get that support. So my understanding now is that those 3 people are gone. 2 of them were unilaterally taken out by area management, and the support to get them back wasn't there. So we need a change at the top in order for the grievance process in Region 2 to be better.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. My biggest issue is getting my non-career CCATE casual time back. How can you help make this happen?
Well, there's already currently HR 1522. It's the Federal Retirement Fairness Act. It's already out there. It's been reintroduced to Congress. I believe it was February of this year it was reintroduced. So there's a Republican and a Democrat who supported it in reintroducing it. There's many members of Congress, the House, that agree with it. So my understanding, July of this year, is the House sponsorship. They have the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. They were taking a look at it. So it was introduced. Now it needs to pass the House, then the Senate, then go to the President. As far as my help, what I would do goes along with topics that I have put in my Facebook page that I would like to see pushed for Region 2, reestablished for Region 2. And one of them is the consistency that has not been done of Zoom meetings. And with those Zoom meetings, we could have speakers. And if this was a subject that wanted to be talked about, dealing with legislation, I would happily have a legislative representative from the NALC. Ours is John Beaumont over in the Western area. And I'd ask him to be on the Zoom meeting and talk specifically about this situation.
Do you guys currently have Zoom meetings?
No.
All right.
Supposed to be Zoom meetings, but they are not on a monthly basis. The indication is nothing new to report, but I have a different outlook on it. Really don't care if the regional office has anything new to report, I want to hear from the field. I want to hear from the letter carriers what they're dealing with and how we can better help them. I think that's a better direction for our letter carriers in Region 2.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think Region 6 technically has a Zoom. I always thought it's a good opportunity to try and strategize in terms of grievance handling. But all right, we'll move
Well,
on. Oh, what did you
okay.
have to say about it?
I was just going to say this type of situation, this type of question, if it was brought up in one Zoom meeting, because we actually have them, then the following Zoom meeting, John Beaumont could be on and talk specifically to it and how the letter carrier political fund could help the situation, letter writing to your senators, congressmen. uh, he could give a heck of a lot more information on what could push this bill through, this law through.
All right. Yeah, it's a good point. So, next question. Debbie, you stated that some slash most of your responsibilities were taken away in the past few years. Can you explain what the responsibilities were that were taken away from you and when?
Okay, so I believe it was July, I believe July of 2024, pre-arbs, the impasses that come up to our office were taken out of my hands, even though I did that from 2018 to 2024. And the idea was that, and I was told at the time, took notes on the meeting, that Nick Vafiatis wanted the best arbitration advocate to do those pre-arbs. Is that his choice? Absolutely. He can do that. I see things differently. Um, I did DRT for 2 years before being an RAA. I was doing the pre-arbs for what, a total of 6 years. Best arbitration advocate, the difference to me is when you're an arbitration advocate, you're going into an arbitration to win. Pre-arbs, you are taking a look at the good, the bad, what's good in a case file, what's bad in a case file, and you're negotiating. You don't negotiate when you go into an arbitration, um, typically. But his choice to do it, absolutely. But after 6 years of doing it, it was taken away. At a later date, I was told it was just a progression, that the newer RAA take it over and, you know, progress with doing more things in the office. Again, for me, I would split up those duties so everyone is aware of what is happening in the region.
Okay.
And then May of this year, 2025, DRT, overseeing DRT was taken away. There was an intervention because my last straw with area was an allegation towards one of our DRT teams that they were creating a hostile environment, and I asked for an intervention and got a copy of that intervention results, and it ended up being that Emma Rodebush was a problem area, but the hypocrisy of all of it was if Emma was being taken off of it, well, then Debbie Dixon needs to be taken off of it. And for me, I think I was thrown under the bus in the sense of I wanted the memo to be followed. I did not want our people going back with the grievances accumulating and accumulating. I wanted management to activate management step B team members. And again, that needs backing from the national office And when you don't get that backing, shit happens.
All right. Were there any indications from Nick or anyone else in the NBA office that you would be fired / let go once you decided to run for NBA of Region 2?
Any indications? No, not specifics. Um, but I've learned to expect anything. So no, there were no indications. Did I know that I was putting myself in crosshairs? Maybe. Absolutely. Because of previous conversations and the NBA telling me at one point in time the gloves are off, so to speak. And it all comes down to just the leadership of the office and the atmosphere. So, did I know I was putting myself in crosshairs? Absolutely. But that change of leadership is needed, and I was willing to put myself out there.
All right. Now that you have been let go, would you be willing to explain some of the internal conflicts in the Region 2 office that you have seen or experienced?
Well, considering that conflicts are really serious disagreements, not just disagreements or different ways of looking at things, conflicts mostly come down to incompatibility. That only happened with one person. So, if you got more questions on that, I guess I can answer them or try.
Oh, it looks like well, we'll just leave it at that for now. Maybe some of the other questions might go into stuff. What were the factors that led you to decide to run against Nick?
Well, the way that to run against Nick, I'm not running against Nick. Right at this point in time, I'm not running against anybody. Nick hasn't announced his candidacy. If he chooses to run, he chooses to run. I'm not going off of assumptions or what everybody thinks. He could decide not to run tomorrow. That's his choice. Not announcing his candidacy, I didn't decide to run against Nick. I decided to run for the position of NBA.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good perspective. Would you
Huh?
be willing to describe your relationship with Nick Vafiades? Hopefully, I'm saying that right. The good, bad, and ugly.
You actually did say it right. Very good. Um, Geez, someone wants tea, huh? Um, Nick and I have worked. We did work well together. Um, when I came over to Olympia, Washington, that was in 2000. Through the ranks of the union, we were presidents of our branches at the same time. Uh, State trainers at the same time. Uh, what else? DRT we did. Went to the training together. Um, we were on the state association at the same time. And then he got RAA, and 11 months later, I got RAA. So, I guess that's the good. And bad or ugly, um, we think differently, which is a good thing to me. Um, the idea of me needing, excuse me, to be loyal to him, that came out, and that's a no go for me. I'm loyal to my family, and loyal to one person. No, I'm loyal to my own personal family. I am loyal to my letter carrier family. I'm loyal to my union family. I am not loyal to one person. And mind frames change. There's two sides to every story. He wants that, needs that, I guess. And I'm not gonna do that.
Okay.
So mind frames changed, and I see things differently, and I think everybody has a right to do so.
All right. Yeah, you're right about people wanting some tea, it appears. So there's a lot here
Oh
that seem
God.
to be very specific. Um, can you describe your working? This is long, so I'll pause when I'm done. Can you describe your working relationship with the other assistants in Region 2 MBA office? Can you speak to each one? Susan Wellhausen, Amy Gallo, Jennifer Self, and more importantly, James Frankfurt.
Um, Working relationship with them. Look, let's take a look at the whole office. We're all alphas. You don't rise up into the regional office without having your own opinion, speaking up and speaking out. So with all of them, working relationship, can I work with them? Do I work with them? Do we disagree about contractual things, which to me is a real good thing. Um, some of them come into my office and ask my opinion. I walk into their office and ask their opinion. That to me is a good relationship. And even when we see differently, it can end up being good. It can change the person's direction of how they go about something. And all in all, it's about what is best for the letter carriers on the workroom floor. So if that's the accomplishment, by putting our thoughts out there, I think that's a good relationship, working relationship. Um, but one person having outbursts and negative outbursts, uh, calling me a fucking selfish bitch and kind of being condoned. Um, and then 2.5 years later, she's doing the same thing to another staff member, obviously hasn't learned. That is not the professionalism that should be in a regional office. And what does that come back to? It comes back to bad leadership, leadership not making a person be accountable for their actions. So there's only one person, and the other ones, I believe, it good working relationships. So I think I covered that.
Well, it's your investigative interview. Uh, it's your time for due process. So your answer is completely on your own. I think you did too, though. It sounded fine. Let's
Thanks.
see. Can you describe your working relationship with members of USPS management, especially around Western area Emma Rowdenbush, and some of the falling out that occurred between the two of you?
Okay, for me, my working relationship with postal management depends on what their working relationship is. If they're hostile, I'm coming after you. If they work well with the union, I'm working well with you. Um, Emma, Emma and I worked well together to begin with, but then, and I'm going to try to put this in a nutshell because it does seem like somebody wants like major tea. And so Emma lied about me, about taking notes in an intervention. And I encourage anyone and everyone to take notes. I take notes all the time. So that started things. Um, and a grievance was filed over that situation. And when an area person tells me I better tell that branch president to withdraw a grievance, now I got a problem with you. You're not going to tell me how to do my job. And you're certainly not going to tell me to withdraw a grievance. So I did not. And like I think I already mentioned, then there was an accusation of our DRT members creating a hostile environment. No investigation. She wouldn't go and find out what the deal was. I asked for an intervention 4 times before it got answered. And there was a joint intervention, and she was found to be an issue. And so when someone lies about you, demands things from you, yeah, the working relationship is going to change.
Yeah, I mean, it's management, so I would be surprised if they didn't lie. So, yeah, it's hard to work with them sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what concerns you, what concerns and or issues do you see in Region 2 that need most attention, and what are some of the methods you would implement as NBA to resolve them?
Well, can you say that again? Concerns or what?
What concerns or issues do you see in Region 2 that need the most attention? And what are some of the methods you would implement as NBA to resolve them?
I think that would be communication. Definitely more communication. And again, I'm going to mention the topics that I put on my Facebook page as regular staff meetings, monthly or more. We don't have those. They need to be reestablished. We used to have them under the old NBA, Paul Price. And not having that communication within the office trickles down to the workroom floor, to letter carriers, to branch presidents. It's not a good look on what the union's supposed to be, which is unity and solidarity. And that includes the letter carrier Zoom meetings. Those definitely need to be done, whether our office has something to say or we just listen to them. So I think communication is a huge issue, and accountability for ill behaviors would be another one. Accountability for not doing the job that you were hired to do. So I would make sure that those things were taken care of if I was leading as NBA.
All right. What were your experiences and thoughts around former Region 2 NBA Paul Price?
Oh, geez. God, does this all come from the same person?
No, it's
Want,
different people. Is it?
wanting all this tea?
Yeah.
Damn. Me and Paul Price again. He is a knowledgeable person, and I'll tell you, before I became an RAA, and well, when he was an RAA, so let's backtrack. Before he became an NBA, I used to sit on the edge of my seat waiting for him to say the next word that came out of his mouth. The guy's very intelligent. When he was NBA, I was RAA. We had our differences of opinion, but that is no surprise. That is who we are when you're at the regional level. You have your own thoughts, and you have a right to say them. With him, at one time I called it a love-hate relationship, and he disagreed with me. He said, "Nah, there's no hate." And then, funny enough, one Christmas he gave me 2 pieces of coal, all wrapped up. So that was quite hilarious. But that was his way, and we dealt with it. After he retired, he did come into our current office. We gave each other a hug. We talked a bit. We talked about family, and life goes on. So we knew to agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think that's very valid to be that way. Well, what are your thoughts about the current NALC leadership, starting with Brian Renfro and Paul Barner?
What are my thoughts about them? It needs to change. We need change. When the letter carriers on the workroom floor are not listened to, there needs to be a change. And what do I mean by that? The TA. And I believe it was put out there that 71% of who voted said on the TA said no to it. And I'll tell you right now, I did too. I thought it was terrible. But then you don't listen and you only take to arbitration two subjects: uniform and pay. That's it. That's not listening to who you represent, who the union is. So needs to change.
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts about former NALC leadership, such as Fred Rolando and William Young?
Well, of course, I like Fred. He hired me as an RAA. Um, Fred was easy to talk to. Bill Young, I didn't have much interaction with him, but when he did interact, even with our branch, I never had any problems with him. So never had any problems with Fred either. So my
Okay.
thoughts, they did well in the times that we had.
How would you address the repetitive non-compliance issues in Region 2?
Um, with the repetitive non-compliance, honestly, I would be taking all of it uh to arbitration, because it's just gotten so out of hand, and obviously you can't take everything to arbitration. But would that be my want? Yes. um I think the non-compliance issue is another situation where you need the support of upper union, upper management. Oddly enough, I think it was just this last October. Um, I was listening to Willie Groeschel and Kobe Jones teach an OWCP class, and they Willie was talking about how the e-comp, that when a situation's not taken care of with OWCP, it then gets escalated to that person's boss. And then that person, if they don't take care of it, it gets escalated to that person's boss. So I actually, ding ding, light bulb went off, that if there was a resolution put forth that if an agreement was made and it was not complied with, it automatically goes up, and let's say to the DM, and then the district manager needs to take care of it. And then if the district manager doesn't, it goes to the next level. I haven't worked it all out, but I think there's ways that we can um, make management more accountable for not complying.
Okay. Well, you know what? I got a weird question. I just came up with one off the top of my head.
Sure.
I don't know why I was thinking about this, but it could possibly be because I was working in the dark today. I worked like 10, 11 hours, as you probably already know, because I scheduled this to be so late. But and it's kind of long and lengthy, so bear with me. But Portland is in your region. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I don't know, are you familiar with that branch in general or no?
Familiar, yeah.
Well, you might not be familiar with this in particular, but we at Roseville in Michigan, we have a very similar stance as far as I know, because I read their LMOU for some of their stations. And we don't have it in our MOU, but we have a precedent-setting decision. I tried to get similar language as Portland in our LMOU, and my NBA's office did not support it. They said it was against the contract. I want to know your opinion. If you were NBA, would you agree with this stance? Essentially, the issue at hand is under the item that talks about the curtailment of mail, the procedures for the curtailment of mail. Portland has in there that it is not efficient and it's not the services or either party's best interest to have carriers deliver in the deliver in the dark if they feel unsafe. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's essentially what it says. And we here observe the same thing. It's been since 2013. If a carrier feels unsafe in the dark, they can just curtail it. They don't have to have that of life or limb excuse. It's if they feel unsafe, it's in the darkness, they can curtail it. Would you say that does not coincide? And obviously, don't try and take my side just because I'm the interviewer. Just tell me your true opinion. Would you say that doesn't coincide with the procedures for curtailment of the mail? Because what they said was that only happens in emergency situations, but I don't see in Article 30 that it says that. So, what do you think about the subject?
Well, having dealt with safety a lot, um, I was the co-chair for the district safety task force in Seattle when it first was developed. Um, for me, I think there is the word unsafe. If you're delivering in the dark and you feel unsafe, to me, that's no different than if you're delivering in the light and there is a dog and you feel unsafe. You are going to curtail.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree. I don't know. Sorry, it's just a random topic. I wanted to add something in here that's not about tea.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Nothing, no problem, no problem. So here it goes. Here it goes again. If you win NBA, do you get along well with the others in that office, or see further staffing changes?
Like I said, um, working relationship, do we bounce things off of each other, or have we? Bounce things off of each other, have differences of opinions. Those differences of opinions are gathered, and then the best decisions made for letter carriers on the workroom floor. I think that is a no-brainer in that office, except for one person. And further staffing changes, I've actually already really addressed this in the Facebook posts that another carrier puts up for me because I don't have Facebook. Um, and I talked about the NAAs. Apparently, the NAAs were, a little bit of fear mongering for them, saying that I would get rid of them if I got in there, or even the RAA, James Frankfurt, would be gotten rid of. And I just think that's absolutely asinine to look at things that way. If a staff member is doing their job, just like I said about the NAAs, if they're doing their job and they're doing it for the betterment of the letter carriers on the workroom floor, they're staying. Why the hell would I take them away? To hurt or retribution, or it's just not me. And if they're not doing their job, I'm not even turning around and saying, well, then you're done. No, we communicate. The thing that doesn't happen often at our regional office. We communicate, we decide what direction do we need to go, can these changes be made? If they're made and the letter carriers are being taken care of, then the person's staying. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we're in the home stretch. I only got three more questions. I did eliminate a few because they were repetitive, but hello, Debbie. I'm glad you are running. You've helped me out a lot, and I'm a huge fan. Here at my branch in Region 2, we are often told Step B is behind a year. Is that true, and if so, why? Don't we have backup teams? My branch frequently uses this as a reason we shouldn't send things up.
Okay, so a couple questions in there, right?
Yep.
Um, so don't we have backup teams? Yes, we do have backup teams. It's a matter of getting area management to put their management backup people in a position to do the job. Like I said, I had 3 of them in there. And for whatever reason, I did not get the backing to basically demand and enforce the DRT memo that they will stay until the backlog is done. And that comes from national down to the NBA. And it is true that they're behind a year. It's gotten worse since when I was taken off of DRT. But that memo is not being used the way that it should be. And I don't care if you bring up a management person and one's working in Washington state and the other's working in Florida. They can work remotely. It's been done before, over and over. And when you don't have an area management person who is wanting to abide by the memo, you need that backing. And when you don't get it, you're going to have huge backlog.
Wait a
So,
minute. So it takes you guys a year to get a Step B decision?
yes.
What?
Yes, anywhere from 9 months to a year is
Man.
where they're currently at.
Well,
Yes.
us at Region 6, we're lucky because I get upset that it takes us like 1 to 2 months. So I had an old Step B. His name was Brian Coppin. He was pretty good, but he only took about 20 days, and now the new ones are taking like 1 to 2 months, and it's like, man, a year sounds ridiculous.
It absolutely is ridiculous. It
Yeah.
goes against everything. Um, we obviously need help. It is very well known at the national level that we need help with it, and things are not being done to take care of it. And when I got in arguments with Emma over the situation, it was take Debbie off and see what can happen. Now, maybe at that time, 4 or 5 months, which I just thought was ridiculous. So that's why I was so stern. But now, yes, I have heard a couple people say a year, more like around 9 or 10 months.
Damn. Especially just to get a decision that says it's impasse to arbitration, and that's another 14 years or whatever it takes. Uh,
Absolutely.
but
Yep.
all right, Debbie, is there a way that all members can see results of Step E decisions? I have seen other branches do this in other regions, but I'm not sure if our NBA has a website.
Mm. Yes, there is definitely a way. Um, Jason Drost out of Portland, DRT, he suggested several years ago for me to have all the Step B decisions scanned, and then we share them between the Step B teams. So the hope being everybody's on the same page, using the same contractual language, so on. It was helpful to them, and I thought Jason had a great idea. And so I don't know if that's still being done, since I don't oversee it or haven't. But with those being scanned, they can absolutely go in an all presidents mailing, and an email for them to share with everyone in their branch, communications at a branch meeting, to share with stewards meetings, however they would like to distribute that. That can absolutely be done very easily. And I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of putting it on a website for all the world to see. But I think the branches being aware of Step B decisions is a good thing. It would need to be described, though. That decision was made based off of a case file. And so I wouldn't want anybody taking a Step B decision to heart and not doing a good job on their case file. I would encourage them to call the branch president of where that Step B came from. What did they argue? What was in the case file? What was missing? What could have been better? And build on it that way. Does that
Okay.
make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I hear you. I only got one more question. It's the classic question that any investigative interview needs. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to add?
And the classic answer of a good steward is to tell the person to say, no, you're done.
All
So
right. Nothing else you'd like to add? All set?
I do believe I'm all set.
Okay.
Well, the only thing I could add is just simply it is time that we need change, and the CLC can give you that change. And I really hope that people see, know, and understand you got to take a chance on that change, because the road we're going down is a dead end road. And we got to get our union back to being what it used to be, the solidarity, the unity, and not one or two people making decisions, and making decisions that are not good, not effective, not even based on the letter carriers. It's about politics, it's about drama crap, and all that stuff. It needs to go away. We need to get back to why we are doing what we're doing. It's for the letter carriers on the workroom floor. They're the union.
All right. So what do you think, Region 2? We're on the other side. Interview's over. Do you think she's got what it takes? Does she have the grit to be the next NBA? You guys get to decide. Next, we're going to continue this series. Next, we're going to have David Grosskopf on, as long as things go as anticipated. And Grosskopf never fails to show up to something. So I don't think anything will happen to his attendance. But so that investigative interview will be taking place. Of course, you'll have the usual approximately 30 days to submit questions. He's running for trustee. And I'll give you till January 30th to submit me questions. And after that, we'll do the interview. And next, after Grosskopf, we're going to do Kamitra Lewis. So we got a good slate coming up. If you have any suggestions for who you'd like to have on, please feel free to tell me. But we're going to try and do an investigative interview with all candidates because I think that is important to get to know the candidate for a free and healthy election. That includes candidates I might not agree with. Of course, I'm leaning toward the CLC. I'm not decided. Don't take that as, that certain people are not welcome on the podcast. I think there's a lot of good candidates, no matter what side you go to. But hopefully you learned something valuable today. And as always, have a good day.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The Grievous Genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the Mailman's Playbook, brother.